Lockie, how are you, my man?
Going really well, Carlo. Thanks for having me on. It's been a we've been chatting about this for a while now, and to actually have it happen is really cool. And it's a great way to sort of finish off my day. I've had a exciting day, a lot of learning, a lot of reading, and now getting to jump on here and chat with you is a great way to finish the day.
Awesome. So your day's finished.
Yeah, after this, mate. Oh, I've got a men's circle tonight, a virtual men's circle, but that is fun. All of it's fun, but it jump on and it sort of runs itself, which is really cool. And I've just got a bit of training to do as well, which is also what I would consider switching off and just putting some music on and going to town.
Yeah, I love it. And we have been in contact for a while. And I think I was trying to remember before, and I don't know if there's a way we can search back through and when you first connected with someone, but man, I think I've been connected with you on Instagram for years.
I reckon I was trying to figure it out, but I think it's at least 3 years.
Yeah, which is nuts. And that means that we've both been able to see each other's journey. And
Growth.
I've been, watching your stuff and always when you had, the men's circles and stuff, I'm like, man, I wish I was up in Brisbane. And we were just saying before that, if COVID didn't happen, we weren't in isolation, I was going to fly up to Brisbane and interview a few people, then down to Sydney and do a road trip and all that. But, what's happened, we've had to adapt and this is a way that we actually get to connect without, an excuse now. So it's awesome. And man, I'm so excited to delve into your story because there's so much that you do, but then also so much about you that I would love to dig into and to find out more about. What's got you most excited in life right now?
Mate, most excited. I think when I think about this, there's probably 3 areas that really excite me. One is obviously the navigating through life and business. I find that really exciting. It's sometimes frustrating, but really exciting. And then, currently looking for a house or some property. So I enjoy that whole process, learning about that and actually looking. That's fun. But then also, for myself, it's a new training. I'm going into a new training sort of focus, really working on mental endurance resilience. So using that, but also implementing some more mindfulness techniques and approaches to help me with that. So one thing at the moment is I'm really trying to extend out my meditation, right, to get that longer, because normally I'll do 10 to 20 minutes and that's good. I'll carry on with my day. And I know my mind's winding up to want to get busy. So now the real resilience for me is to just go, right, let's just get another 10 minutes and remain calm, stay, focus on your breath, do all that sort of stuff. But then from the physical side of things, jumping into some really long endurance events, which is a new way to test my physical capabilities, which I always love, finding the boundaries or the limitations. Sorry.
Yeah, I love that like holistic approach that you've got. Like you've got the mind, then you've also got the body with the physical stuff as well. What is it with the mind? Like, why do you want to extend your meditations? Like you're doing it, which is excellent. Why do you want to extend it? Because a lot of people would go, I've just ticked that box of 10 minutes, done it, see you later.
I think because I've always looked for physical ways to improve, challenge my resilience and push myself. Whereas I think, for me, one of the biggest challenges I've faced over my life is being able to slow down and sit still. So I now it's only been recently that I've looked at meditation as a way to sort of do that. I've always been like, nah, got to move on to the next thing, even if it's reading or writing or something like that. That's productive. That's how I viewed it. But now it's like, okay, if I can just sit still, that's focus, right? That's crazy for me to be able to just sit there for 30 minutes to an hour and just focus on my breath and just let it happen. Like rather than just going, all right, let's just finish 20 minutes early. Come on, you can get on a phone call or do this and do that. So it's really enjoyable, and I want to prove to myself that I have control over my thoughts. Like that's the real challenge, because obviously over my life, as a lot of us would experience, and probably yourself has experienced as well, there's days where you feel like you don't have control over things that are going in your mind. But, this challenge with meditation is definitely helping me think otherwise.
So for someone that's so physically active, like you're a beast. And if anyone has you on Instagram, they'd see that. How has meditation helped you in all areas of your life and business?
Yeah, I think the beautiful thing about meditation, allows me to reflect, right? I think from a business standpoint and then a physical standpoint, you're always chasing the thing, right? It's always about, right, I've hit 120 kilo lift. Let's go 122.5 or 130. Same with business. It's like, all right, I've filled out that event. Let's get the next event. And you never really, or for a long time, I never stopped to reflect and just really appreciate how far I'd come and acknowledge the hard work that's finally paying off, and, you know, all of that sort of process. So now that I meditate, I can go in my business, you know, I've got all these things on my wall here, where I just stop and check in and actually appreciate where I'm at, and the fact that I can sell out an event, or the fact that I can lift that certain weight, whereas 12 months ago or 24 months ago, that may not have happened. So it's really helped me become more present and actually enjoy the process a lot more than just trying to, you know, get bigger and better.
Yeah. Are those things on your wall, are they goals? Are they set points?
Yeah, and reminders just to check in with myself. Like, because one of the things that, you know, and I think we're all guilty of this, I'm just looking at it right now, is when I'm in the office, I'm obviously focused on business and providing value. Like yourself, I do a bit of content. So the first thing written here is that the best use of my time?
Yep.
Okay. And then, would I get value from this? Whereas I might be just thinking, I got to get a lot of content out, boom, 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 rather than actually just going, how about you enjoy the process? And now, you know, when I think of that, I'll then go into more detail about, okay, would I get value from this? Let's actually take a moment to think about what I'm wanting to put out there. And is there an actual intention behind it? Or am I just throwing stuff out there for the sake of throwing it out there? And to me, and I touched on this before, it's actually got me into writing more, right? Like, I never was good at English at school. I never really read, and I never wrote, that's for sure. And obviously Instagram's helped change that. But now I spend a lot of time actually writing posts or writing my emails, or even now when I do videos, I take time to sort of write how I want to structure it out, so that I am focused on delivering the most value for, obviously, you know, something that I would find valuable, but also for other people. So it's, you know, having these sorts of things written around all the place to make sure that I'm showing up in a way that I, you know, ultimately find would be valuable to other people.
That's awesome. And such good reminders too. I think, like you said, we always get caught up in the next thing and the next challenge, the next weight, the next achievement, the next event, and guilty of that for sure.
Yeah.
When it was like, you know, what are the three things you're grateful for today and right now? And I think having my birthday the other day or yesterday, and reflecting on last year and all that, like I wrote in my Instagram post, every year I was like, I didn't do enough, or I haven't achieved enough, or I don't have enough money, or this or that. And I'm like, no, this year I was finally like, fuck, I've done a lot. Like, I'm proud
Yeah.
of what I've done, and I'm happy with that. Yes, there's still visions and goals of what I want, but where I'm at, like, you know, I've done a lot of work to get where I am, and I'm super happy with that. And that's, you know, I've got to celebrate that. If not, I'll be unhappy until I reach a goal. But that's the thing. When we get to that goal, we always set another one. So we're never happy along that way.
It's always, when I get here, I'll be. And it's like, no, you can just choose to be now, and it'll make the process more enjoyable.
Yeah. So for those that don't know much about you, and I don't know too much about you. Yes, I read your posts and have you on Instagram, but really I don't know too much about your story. And for the people that are listening that don't know too much about your story, can you give us a wrap up of your life from start to where you are now and everything that you do now?
Yeah, for sure. I guess for me, I was fortunate. I grew up in a great family, and I grew up in Toowoomba. For those who may have heard it, it's 2 hours west of Brisbane. But also, you know, the family had a property down in Gundawindi, which was, you know, my mum's side of the family. So I got to spend a lot of time out there as well, which was phenomenal as a young kid, getting to run around, ride motorbikes, and do all that sort of,
like out in the country?
Yeah, out in the country. Yep. So I think it's 3,000 acres, so cattle and all that sort of stuff. But that was a cool experience, and that, you know, helped me. I guess it really shaped a lot of who I am today. You know, being outdoors and loving the outdoors, being connected with nature, but also being very athletic and loving the physical challenges that can, you know, go from all kinds of things. But, you know, for me, when it was 10 years old, that I was sort of, I guess, the belief popped into my head, and a few results led me to believe that I could be a good athlete. And I know at 10 years old, that's, you know, some people may say that's young, but it's when I, you know, went to my first state titles as an athlete for 800 meters. And from that moment, you saw everyone around me, my mother, and, you know, friends and all that sort of stuff got behind me and just kept building up this belief that I was a talented athlete. And, you know, the following year I actually won the state titles, went to my first national titles. And, you know, 3 years later, I placed second at the national titles. And there was this cool array of events of things that happened. You know, I got a coach which helped things going on. I started making sacrifices, and this is, you know, as a between the ages of 12 to 14 or 10 to 14, I'm making sacrifices to focus on a goal, which is crazy that I didn't know at the time. I was doing visualization, or as mum called it back then, brain gym, to think about how I wanted my race to go. And I was doing all these crazy things, which, you know, obviously helped me excel. And when I got to 14, it was the first time that I'd really, really had my beliefs being challenged as about who I was as a person and as an individual. Because up until that point, I'd always had supportive people around me, and it was a lot of my life was focused around being an athlete. And when I was 14, you know, I went to Toowoomba Grammar School, which is a predominant rugby school, and I was on a sports scholarship. And I was a skateboarder as well, so I was a bit of a skeg, and I was a skinny little fella. I don't even know
What is
how.
this skeg?
I don't know. It's just a skater. We call it a skeg, the guy who wears the baggy pants and the globes and walks around with his skateboard. But yeah, that obviously drew a lot of attention because I was a runner, but then I was also skateboarding, and I didn't, you know, have my crew yet as such. But so obviously, you know, as the rugby season started and all those sorts of people got together, I got bullied. And that was, you know, from being a skateboarder and being skinny and having a high voice. So it was around 14, so grade 9, where I started really being challenged about whether I wanted to continue being a runner and whether I really wanted to continue being a skateboarder. And eventually I gave in to the peer pressure and the bullying, and I was like, right, footy's where it's at. And over the next sort of 4 years, I played first 15, played rep footy, did all that sort of stuff, but turned into a footballer. So I went from a skinny little high-pitched voice dude to a guy with a beard, and I didn't have a beard back then, but became, you know, one of the footy guys. And through that whole process, you know, looking back, I lost myself. Right, I was unhappy. I enjoyed the competitive side of football, but I didn't enjoy the football. So what that, you know, ultimately led me to do over the next couple of years was turn to different ways to figure out what was actually missing. Right, I tried footy, I tried different sports, I tried having a girlfriend, and I had a long-term relationship. I then started turning to drinking, alcohol, sex, pornography, all these things to try and fill that gap that, you know, was there, and I wasn't really sure why. And, you know, fortunately for me, so my partner I'd been with for about 6 years, she broke up with me in 2011. Right, so I'd been out of school for 3 years. I'd been pursuing the football dream, was playing down on the Gold Coast. And she broke up with me just, you know, because I was a prick, right? I was a liar. I was a cheater. I'd been caught out multiple times, but I always managed to manipulate my way back into it and blame fucking everything else except for taking responsibility. But it was when she finally drew the line in the sand, it fucking broke my heart. Like, it was the hardest thing ever, because, you know, that was the one place where I felt valued. I felt like I belonged, and I felt like I could be myself. And that got taken away. So that, you know, obviously ultimately led me to hit the drugs hard again, really hard. But I also had a lot of moments in that period of time where I was like, is this really all I am going to be, or is this really all that I can be? And I went home one evening and I sent out my rugby CV. So, you know, showing some footage of me playing rugby and all of that sort of stuff to as many clubs in Europe as possible. All right. And it wasn't the fact that I wanted to go pro, right, or anything like that. I just wanted to get away. I needed to be away because all my mates, all the people that I hung around, were friends with her. So I was constantly reminded of what I'd fucked up and all that sort of stuff. And I was just sick of hurting. So fortunately enough, I got a contract to go play in France, which was awesome, you know, and I thought that would fix everything. I thought getting away would stop the pain, hurting. I thought it would, you know, make me feel good about myself again. And, you know, I thought I'd end up finding some sexy girl who loved me. That was the truth. And I thought I'd get a lot of money. And lo and behold, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I trained a lot. I sat in my room because I couldn't speak very fluent French and a lot of people couldn't speak English. Sat in my room, watched YouTube for most of the day, just feeling miserable and constantly Skyping people back home, wishing I was back there and just feeling sorry for myself. And, you know, throughout that period of time, I came home at Christmas. And when I got home at Christmas, I went to the pub and caught up with everyone. It was the greatest time ever. I felt like I fit in again. Everyone, you know, loved me, like, because I'd been abroad and I had a cool story. And so I was like, right, I'm not going back. I'll stay. And from that point, you know, 2 weeks later, everyone went back to normal. All of a sudden people weren't fussing about me and I was left there going, fuck, what do I do now? I don't, you know, the football's done. I have no idea who I am. I'm not going to university. I'm not going to do a trade. I'm better than that. I didn't know what I was going to do. I literally was at a dead end. And ultimately what that led me to do was, you know, I started doing some labor work. My dad's a builder, so I just started doing labor work because I was definitely not doing a trade. And after a while, I was, you know, laboring for long enough. Dad's just like, you may as well do a trade because you're doing the hours, so you may as well get that done. So I signed up to get my trade, but in the process, I was resentful. I hated myself. I hated everything. I hated everyone. And my weeks, like a lot of men that I sort of spent a lot of my time around, we drank from probably Wednesday to Sunday, did copious amounts of recreational drugs, tried to see who could sleep with the most women. Okay. And it was that process over and over again. And I couldn't tell you how many times I woke up just going, is this all that life is meant to be? Like, I thought it was supposed to be so much better than this. I had a standard that I'd set for myself that I wasn't living up to, but I'd never even questioned where that standard came from or why I wasn't living up to it. And end of 2013, I had an incident from a night out, which woke me up. It was the moment that it literally, it just made me, it's the best word. Yeah, essentially just, it was the moment where I was like, I'm better than this and I'm going to start doing better. And I was intoxicated at the time and it just stunned me till I felt sober. And I was just remember looking and thinking, going, nah, we're done here. This is done. I'm done. And that was the moment I drew the line in the sand. And a few weeks later, I moved to Brisbane. Okay, I met my now partner who I've been with for, 6 and a bit years. And that was like my second chance to rebuild myself and, you know, sort of understand who I was, what I wanted from my life and actually be successful. Because I was obviously, from a young age, I thought I was going to be, you know, what the world thought as successful. And I had my own definition of what that was, but I wanted to be recognized. I wanted to have a big impact and I wanted to not, you know, I wanted to be in control of my life. And, you know, that led me to meeting some people who introduced me to reading, and I actually started reading then, funnily enough. And my life over the last 6 years has been crazy. It's, you know, I've dealt with a lot of challenges and obstacles, but, you know, being around the right people, reading, investing in myself has got me to this point. And the crazy thing is, you know, from the age of 14, I've been seeing people give up, right? I've never really gave up myself until a certain point, but I saw, you know, my first time I was exposed to or had someone that I knew take their life by suicide was when I was 14. And it was a guy that I used to run with. He was signed with the Gold Coast Titans, was a national champion runner. I never could understand why someone who had all of the things that I wanted would take their life. I didn't get it. And I never once got spoken to about what suicide was. And I never got to actually process it, because being a man and having just started to go into the football scene, you couldn't cry. Still to this day, I have the front page of our local paper, which his face was on. And I'd keep that under my bed. And couldn't even tell you how many weeks I would come home and pull that out and just cry in my room, because I was like, it's fucking sad. And then, you know, a few years on, I've seen myself give up. I've seen other mates who've had NRL contracts give up. I've seen other mates take their lives. And it's just been a sad thing that I want to change, and something for myself that I never want to experience. And I don't want people to give up on themselves, because I know we can change. I'm living proof that, from my experience up until that point, if I can get myself back on track, anyone can if they have the right mindset and the desire to do it. So that sort of sums me up. And I guess where that puts me right now, for those who are watching it live, I founded a company called the Man That Can Project back in 2018. And that came off the back. I was been doing a lot of one-on-one coaching, and fortunately enough, I was really busy. So I wanted to learn how to leverage my time and also get Lachlan Stuart, my name, out of it, so I could, depending on what opportunities arise. So I was like, I'm going to start this thing, and what would be the one thing that I needed when I was at my lowest point? And for me, that was a community of men from all walks of life that could share experiences with me, but also help me be uplifted. And that was when I was like, right, let's do a men's circle. I didn't call it a men's circle at the time. I just thought it was a meetup, but I put it on my Instagram story. And then I thought about what the name could be for the Man That Can Project before it was the Man That Can Project. And obviously that's what we came up to. And it's just evolved ever since then. We've created a really great community, really focused on helping them take ownership for their life and their actions, but also build more resilience and confidently be their authentic self. And that's what their mission is really driven to do. And, doing that through men's circles and coaching and all that sort of stuff is where we're at now.
Whoa.
I don't know whether I was talking too long or what.
No, it's perfect. And oh man, there's so much goodness to take in. And the whole time you were talking, I'm like, are you saying my story or yours? Because the whole going overseas, changing, what you were doing to fit in with the group in high school, and then going overseas, living in Europe by myself. I was in Amsterdam, lucky enough they spoke English as well, but just, being alone, then coming back and being like, Carlo's home, he plays in Europe. And I'm like, you have no fucking idea how lonely it is. and how, I didn't make pro, I made semi-pro, and my dreams got crushed over there. And coming back and then going, well, I don't want to do that anymore. Now what? Like it's so similar it was the identity crisis of, I think I was 21 at the time, where I was like, well, I was known as Carlo the soccer player, and that's all I ever wanted because I wanted the girls, the money, the fame, the skills. I thought I wanted to be David Beckham. I even changed my hair every month like him. And then when you get to a point where you're like, I don't actually like doing this. Like, I don't actually like soccer. I was doing it because it was a habit and because it was, what everyone else was like, you should do this. And then when you come out of that, you're like, but it's not even me, but who am I?
Yeah.
And I've had 30 different jobs, and it's like, they were in that time were just to pass the time. Like I even worked with my dad too. And he's on a vineyard. So, I was never going to be a blocky and grow grapes, but it was something to pass the time. And that it's just crazy that, even for me, I'm like, oh, I'm the only one that's been through that. No one will understand. And then you're saying exactly the same thing. So it's crazy. And then for me too, I can definitely relate on I've never been at a point where I've been suicidal or thought about that. I've definitely had down times, but especially where I'm from, which is a country town as well, Mildura, which is a country town of Victoria, there was a lot of suicide. And it didn't surprise me when I heard about it. It surprised me that no one was it didn't surprise me. Like that was a surprise that, oh yeah, 3 teenagers took their life last week, but hey, it's Mildura, that's what happens.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not right. Like,
it's not normal.
Yeah. And I know what it feels like to not like who I am and the life that I'm living. But, for whatever reason, I didn't get to that point. But everything that I do now, and this is where I think why we've connected and so well, is that it's a very similar mission on I don't do it through that man that can, but through my projects is, the Conscious Podcast is so that people can find tools and tips to then raise their awareness and consciousness of themselves so that they don't get to that point. Provide a network and a community online so that we have support and we have all that. And that's why I admire what you do so much, but now hearing the backstory, it's lifted it to a whole new level. So yeah, it's so awesome in there. And like I said, there's so many things that stand out. Like even the fact that your mum was helping you visualize back in your running days.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That never sunk in literally till about 2 or 3 years ago when I was like, Mum actually used to make me do this, and it wasn't called visualization; it was called brain gym back then. But it's cool. Like Mum knew all these cool things without even. I think she got that because my brother had or has ADHD, so it was something that whoever she was seeing for that gave him that exercise and thought, give it to Lockie as well. Let's see how it works, and it worked a treat.
Mm-hmm. How do you think? So you run a program that's obviously based around men,
Yep.
which I think is amazing because there's a lot of women movement, and not that I'm against it. It's that I feel amazing, like they're women supporting women, but I think the men got left out. And as you were saying during your story, I'm still a lot of my friends play at national level for AFL, play internationally or for Australia for the Socceroos. My little brother plays for Australia for soccer. So it's
awesome.
I'm seeing athletes that are also, and we see it in the news, we see it all this, that they're struggling with their mental health. Why do you think that men just, I know right now, I would say personally, it's getting so much better than what it was. And it's obviously taking these big events for people to wake up and go, oh my God, we can actually talk about mental health and stuff like that. But why do you think men still struggle to share their emotions, share what's going on and what's on their mind?
Just conditioning, and I think our way of seeing the world. A lot of us have grown up, and especially in country towns, we've been growing up with the belief that men don't cry, men don't complain. If we have problems, we get on with it. And I experienced that firsthand. My brother has struggled with his mental health and had attempted his life, and I never understood it. From the outside looking in, I was just like, harden the fuck up and get on with it. Like I'm struggling in my own way, but I just get on with it. And I never really understood that, right? But I also had dad loving me because I was doing well with footy. My brother wasn't, so he didn't get the other
Praise.
validation or praise or gratification. And I think a lot of us are growing up with that, and we don't ever get educated on maybe what we are experiencing. We don't get taught, that our moods can change, and there are things that can influence our moods or our emotions, and it's okay to experience highs and lows. And there are things that may trigger that, and it's different for all of us. I guess talking about emotional intelligence, it's really neglected. So even if we just implemented that and said, still don't talk about it, but if you can understand it a bit better, that's going to have a significant improvement for a lot of men. And I know from firsthand experience, like I became resentful to the world and to people and to everything because I didn't understand why I was experiencing all the emotions that I was experiencing. The only way I could really express myself was through violence and anger. Like that's why everything would end up, even if I'd had a great day with my girlfriend and I'd had a few beers, then I would just ruin it at the end of the day with aggression, because that's how I would express myself. And it wasn't obviously the best way to go about it, but it was the only time I could cry. It was the only time I could really just grit my teeth and just let that emotion out, because that was the only way I knew how. And for a lot of men, because we hold on to that, we don't get to talk, we don't understand, we, like I said, become resentful. And that's the reason why I believe it's a big factor as to the domestic violence, the suicide rates, the crime, all those sorts of things, because we don't have the understanding of why we feel certain ways, and that we can look to address it in a positive way, not always a negative way, because the ways that we've been brought up to deal with it through drugs, alcohol, pornography, violence isn't working. I would assume, country towns, I was brought up to see fighting was good fun. Like I used to love having a good scrap.
That was this high school. It was
Yeah.
it was all the groups, and then once a month there was a big blue, and it went on YouTube, and the police would come down, and
Yeah, I wanted to be.
Not me. I was not a fighter. I had the soccer ball. I was kicking it in, trying to hit someone.
I wanted to be that guy that people were fearful of, and for what reason I don't know. Purely because it was an ego thing, or it was what was respected, and it's sad. But I think there are a lot of men now, like you said, that there is a big awakening or movement of men who are going, hey, you can experience this, you can cry, you can laugh, you can, have down days, bad bad days, you can communicate well. It feels really good. Give it a go. So we're learning that, our only outlet isn't things that I mentioned before, the drugs, alcohol, pornography, violence, anger, all that sort of stuff. There are other ways we can express ourselves, and it feels equally as good, if not better. Because for those who I guess may listen to this, the last time you yelled or someone might cut you off and you swear at them, it feels good, like instant gratification. But then when you actually think about it, you're like, oops, wrong choice, wrong decision. And I've done that in so many areas of my life where I've just flipped off lost the plot and always regretted it. Whether it's going from cheating the next day, you'd be like, oh God, got to fix that again. I didn't really want to do that, but now I'm in trouble. And all these decisions were based off instant gratification to try and make myself feel better. But once again, because of the lack of understanding, I didn't realize I could make myself feel better in my own ways, in a positive way.
And it goes back to what you were saying before, I think, is that the resent of, X, Y, Z of what's happening, blaming others and not taking responsibility that, you've said it for the past, couple of minutes, is that you have the choice. The choices that you get to make.
Yeah.
And you're responsible for that. And I think that, the movement that's happening, like, I think it's amazing. And the stuff that you do, especially, is allowing a container for men to talk. And there's a group down near me called Hey Mate, a good friend Gabe, who's coming on the podcast.
Man, I love Gabe.
Yeah. Oh, you know him. There you go.
Yeah, met him at Lululemon event.
Awesome. And I did one of his, the running.
Yeah, right.
And I did a meditation for them, and we were chatting and he started, Hey Mate, and just seeing all these things pop up. And like, I've always wanted to work more with men, because my programs are more female based. There is men in there, but I don't know, like for me, always growing up, I was always friends with the girls. I guess I was more in touch with my emotions. Like I would talk about things and all of that. And, I think for me, connecting with men, especially now, like I really want to work with athletes and my brother's team and stuff like that, and AFL players, especially the people struggling right now because they don't have their livelihood anymore because of what's going on.
Yep.
And looking at the stats of mental health in sport and men is crazy, and I want to make an impact as well. How can men because a lot of people are seeing it as, oh, you need to be this super feminine spiritual guy and meditate for 20 hours a day. And don't get me wrong, people, like when I go to talk to guys, I see them switch off very quickly. And my whole branding and how I want to come across, which is authentically me, is that it can be normal. Like I get it that my dad's generation or the generation above, they're not going to get it because they're, in that generation where it was never, like you said, it was the eat some cement and get over it.
Yep.
But now it's like, okay, well, we can't ignore these things that are going on. But if you're asking yourself, am I happy? No. Am I angry? Yes. So how can you then open up without it looking, because you've got like the very left side, which is the spiritual, you go into cacao journeys and ecstatic dance and all of that, dancing naked on the beach and all that sort of stuff. Then you've got the very right way, which is, I guess it would be very direct, and it would be maybe the boot camps and you got to be a man and go camping and all this. What sort of a medium where it's like, well, comfortable for guys to step into? How can they emotionally connect so that they're not making more so bad choices in their life?
That's everything you spoke about. So brilliant there, like touching on the left and the right side. And I think just before I go into that question, I think it's so important to acknowledge that there are people at different stages and with different focuses. And I think the cool thing is, and especially with men's health coaching and even the women's coaching, I don't resonate to everyone, just as you wouldn't resonate with everyone, and I'm completely okay with that. I'm not here to solve every man's problem. It's not my mission. I'm here to hopefully resonate with guys who would get value from the way I show up in the world, because as you just said, you're being your authentic self, and that's what I'm doing as well. Right? So I'm not into the cacao journeys and all that sort of stuff. Mind you, I've never tried it. I'm always open-minded to try things, that's for sure. But I've got my own way of how I believe to get to an empowered state, a confident state, and a very connected state, so to speak. That's what I believe has worked for me, and it's where I'm currently at. And that's going to resonate with some people, and it's not. So I think to get people to that point is taking that first step, and we're all on different journeys. So, for me, I don't speak about, well, I do, but I wouldn't use, I don't use consciousness or any of that sort of stuff in my language. That's just not. And you've probably picked up, I swear a bit and bit ochre, and that's how I am, and I don't apologize for that. And I feel I help a lot of men who were like I was, and I sort of really help them kickstart the journey. And I introduce it with a bit of I'm not really the boot camp style, but I am still sort of tough and will give the tough love if it's needed. But I also want to help them understand that they need to get connected to their emotions in order to get that ultimate fulfillment with everything else that they want. And I've seen it that once people have finished their journey with me, they then go into different avenues as they sort of start to understand themselves more. Because I think ultimately it's all about, understanding and building the confidence to show up how you feel is best suited for you, right? And that looks different for every individual. So, I think, to go back to answer your question, it's exactly that. I think if people who are in the coaching space, like we are, if we continue to be our authentic self, we're giving everyone the opportunity to find their place in that rung. And I think, we need more of us, because obviously there's a lot of men struggling, and we're not, as individuals, we're not the perfect fit for everyone. And I'm completely okay with that. And that's why I love knowing people like yourself, or I've got other men's coaches that I'm like, you're not the best fit for me, but you would definitely thrive under the guidance of this person. That's completely okay, because I want to make the experience brilliant for you, but I also want to enjoy it myself.
Yeah.
I want to enjoy the people that I'm working with. So I'm not going to just work with someone because I know I could get them there, but the chances of that actually happening, if there's bad energy, speak about bad energy, like I wouldn't even say bad energy, but I just know if the energy doesn't feel right, I'm not going to work there.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, if they don't align, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, there's a process to get into our programs for that reason, and it's not to be like, this is exclusive to these types of people. It's that if you don't align with me, then we're both not going to get the result that we want.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's plenty of people out there that can help you with whatever
Yeah, and I think it's really important, and I think there's a stigma about inclusivity and all that sort of stuff, and I probably held on to that for a bit as well. And I obviously want to welcome everyone to look at what I do, and also females who are like, oh, I'd love to be a part of it, but I think everyone deserves their own space, right? I think we're all adults, we can all make our own decisions, but there is also, we're all looking for that one place where we really belong, right? Where we can let all the fucking guards down and we can just be ourselves. And if I can provide that space for some people, awesome. If you can, but I think, if people get upset, obviously that's their own journey they need to go on, but none of it's personal, right? We're just trying to help the people that we feel we can help, and create that space for those people.
And I think this is such an important conversation, whether you're a male or female listening, because if you're a female, you've probably got men in your life, whether it's a partner, a father, a brother, or a friend, that you can then share this with, or share this sort of information. But then also, if you're a guy, it's like, well, you've got brothers, fathers, sons, friends, that this is going to be really important to connect with, but also reach out to certain different people from this conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I think, maybe I'll make sure I don't make the title of this too men based, but like it's so, all this information is so useful to both sides. And I think, it definitely resonates. A lot of that information.
I think everything that both of us would speak about is relevant to all individuals, right? Like, it's the same things, to processes to go through. You just take what you want and don't use what you don't need. And it helps you get to where you want to go. But I think if we all share ideas and perspectives, we can all learn from it. It doesn't matter what, race, gender, any of that sort of stuff we are. It's for people, humans.
I love that, because it's like authenticity, but also integrity at the same time. What's the worst thing that's ever happened to you, and how is that the best thing that has ever happened to you?
I for me, I probably would say that that breakup, I've had some pretty bad breakups, and I think it's interesting, like all the bad things I've had a lot of bad things happen, but when I think about, things that really impacted me, it was a relationship based thing. I think because that was, I lacked the self-love and the self-appreciation that when I got in a relationship that I thought was good, that just became everything to me. So when that got taken away, that was the end. And I think, that 6-year relationship that left me to end up moving to France was probably one of the hardest. That was my first real long-term relationship, and to get dumped, especially when I thought I was the Ducks nuts playing footy and doing all that sort of stuff, I didn't think it was possible. And I'd also got away with all the crap that I mentioned earlier, the cheating and lying and all of that sort of stuff. It was a big kick in the teeth, and it was a big wake-up call.
Yeah, can relate. It's so, oh man, this is what we're gonna have some great chats after this, but it's yeah. Why was it the best thing though?
Because it sent me on that journey to one. I think if that hadn't have happened, I may not have gone to France. I may not have looked to get away, which may not have given me that time by myself to realize that everything that I'd been working towards, the sporting career and all that sort of stuff, wasn't actually what I wanted, and it still didn't fulfill me. Right? It wasn't going to change my life. I had to change my life. So the moment that I was put in that position, that's when I was like, right, well, if this isn't going to fix it, I'm going to have to figure out how to fix it. And that obviously, had that not happened, I wouldn't have had that moment a few years later. And that I wouldn't have been in that position to really go, well, I'm better than this. Because it's funny how people talk about having their rock bottom moments, and if we could figure out how to stop men or even women like wanting to change when they hit rock bottom, you'd solve a lot of the problems. But I had a lot of sort of moments where I should have woken up to myself, and when I talk about them, I'm like, how did you not figure it out then that was a bad thing to be doing? And it was that last one that led to that. So I think they all played their part, but it was really that heartache that really was the first time when I started questioning myself and the things that I was doing, and maybe realized that they weren't the best things to be doing. Even though, for a lot of those actions I was praised by the boys, it wasn't the right thing to be doing.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to mention is that you said you started with, it was the awareness of hey, I don't like where I'm at or what I'm doing in those moments. So it's the awareness, and then you started asking the questions of, why is this happening and how can I make it better because this isn't feeling good. And I think that's where a lot of people are at. They're either in a spot where they're not liking their result or liking how they're feeling or how they're acting. That's awesome. That's where you start. But then it's like, now start taking responsibility and making better choices. What would be the first thing from that moment that you would suggest someone do?
I think just what you touched on is start asking yourself questions. Okay, like the more questions you ask yourself, the more answers you can give. And sometimes once again, we don't want to go near those answers. It's uncomfortable, or it might be something we're not ready to deal with. And if you're not ready to deal with it yet, awesome. But maybe ask yourself, what do you need to get in place first to be ready for it? Because had I not asked myself, why I kept doing this, and I obviously worked out that I was just trying to fit in with people. I worked out that I didn't love myself. I realized that I fucking hated myself. I would realize, or ask myself, what needed to change. I needed to change my environment. I left. I cut off, and I don't. Well, this is my story, but I cut off a lot of people in my life, a lot, and it's literally, this is 5-6 years later. I'm only just starting to start talking to them again, which is crazy. But I needed to start fresh. That was a really big thing for me. And, then started thinking about, I know a weakness of mine is wanting to fit in. So when I stopped drinking, okay, I drink again now, but I stopped drinking for a fair while because it wasn't good for me. I said, I know that if I get put in a situation where alcohol or anything like that's going to be there, what can I do to, be prepared for that? So I started doing 16-week body challenges. I started to ask questions and understand myself. And a lot of the time I didn't like the responses. I hated myself. And another thing that sort of really took my journey off, I started documenting the whole process on Instagram. So if you go all the way back to even before 2014, you can see the transformation of me as a person, from a guy who really mumbled and all this sort of stuff, trying to do videos, and even the way I wrote, as opposed to the confidence change and the belief systems change, and the skills that I learned along the way. And ultimately it came back down to, asking myself questions and reflecting on things in my life that hadn't gone well and what had gone well, and just giving myself answers so I could get more of the things that I wanted and limit the things that I didn't want.
Yeah. And that's so awesome, and such good questions that anyone can ask themselves, no matter where you're at. Even if you're happy, keep asking questions. The quality of your life depends on, or is in direct proportion to, the quality of the questions you ask
Yeah.
yourself. And that's where, like you said, that's where you're going to find the answers, whether they're uncomfortable or not. That's where the growth is. That's the results, that the answers you want, they're all within. You just got to ask those right questions. Would you say you're living your purpose?
Yes. 100%.
Awesome. So how can others find and then live their purpose?
I believe it's all they're making a decision. I think, purpose is one of those things that gets a lot of people scared because they want to be like Elon Musk or have this huge world-class purpose. But to me, a purpose could be as simple as getting out of bed for the day. If you're in a really low emotional state, it could be cooking dinner for your partner, right? That could be your purpose for the day. And obviously it can continue to grow and evolve as you continue to grow and evolve, right? In 2014, my purpose was to get out of the building game and build a network marketing business, right? Then when I went through network marketing, I was like,
sounds so similar.
same guys. But then it was like, right, I want to speak on stage for this company. That was my next purpose. I did that. And then I was like, okay, I started exploring all these other things, and it got me into coaching. And I've always, my purpose has been growing and evolving, but it's always been based around what I feel compelled to do. And even, I'm completely honest about this, like the Man That Can project, will that be my lifelong purpose? I don't know. As long as I'm fueling what I feel is right for me, then that's where I'm going. But right now it's the best. And I'm so excited every day to get up and be able to have the ability to do what I do. I love it. But, as my life changes, so will my purpose, so will the circumstances. But the vision at the moment is still ultimately the same, to just keep leaving an impact and making sure that I don't neglect myself in the process.
Yeah, and I think so many people do happen to fall down that path of like neglecting themselves, and it's like, it's all good to help people, but if we can't feel good and help ourselves, then how can we serve even more?
Yeah. I don't want the Man That Can project to be my identity, like being a footy player was. Like it's an extension of what I do. Like it's a part of my life at this point in time, and it's something that's there, but it doesn't define who I am as a person.
Mm-hmm. And that's, I got questioned about that, especially we were talking before this, will the podcast go past 100? I don't know. Do I love it? Hell yeah. It's, been one of the most purposeful and fulfilling things in my life. And it's led to being a meditation teacher, being a coach, being a mentor, running events, all these types of things, which is unreal. And now having an online community, which is insane, and all these opportunities coming up. But like you said, like I'm open to it as well, evolving. Like right now it's the podcast. It might be something else in 12 months, and that's okay. As long as it aligns with me and my vision and my values, then I'm sweet. And I think a lot of people get stuck on, it has to be this one thing. Again, identity. I have to be, an athlete. You can only be an athlete for so many years. Then what?
Yeah.
And what if you get an injury and it doesn't happen? Then it's all, or a relationship. This is the relationship for the rest of my life. What happens if something goes wrong and you break up? It's then being adaptable and to evolve, especially in certain climates where there could be a virus that shuts down the whole world. You need to be able to adapt.
Highly important.
Yeah, which is crazy. What's the best advice you've ever been given?
I was thinking about this, and if I could say two pieces. The very first one was obviously when I was 10 and I didn't win the race. I made the States, but it was just don't quit, because I wanted to have a tantrum at that point. But don't quit, find a way to do it and work hard. Like that was, I remember mum saying. And that's, when I was first playing a high level of footy, I was still 75 kilo, which is tiny for a football player, a rugby player. And then, through all my life, it's always just been work hard and find a way, just don't quit. That's probably the best bits of advice. But also, through that process, when I was in starting the coaching, I heard a quote, which is first seek to understand before being understood. And I've always considered myself to be a good listener, but when I heard that, and then I obviously broke it down for what it meant to me, it's like I always want to try and understand what someone else is going through to understand why they have the beliefs or have acted in a way that they do, because one, it's going to change my decision about it, or two, it's just going to solidify my belief. So there's only good that can come from that, and it makes people feel heard. And I think, as we touched on earlier, people are missing human connection. They're missing, they're craving belonging. That's why we're getting all these cool communities like your community, my community, and various other ones, because people just want that sense of belonging.
So what was that last one? It was seek to understand. So seek to understand the person before being understood. So being understood meaning you want them to understand where you're coming from. It's just like argument. And it's a good way to obviously not have arguments as well, right? Because most of the arguments people have, it's not going to change their life. They're just doing it for the sake of being understood and being right. being stubborn on your point and not being open-minded to another opinion. And that's so cool to look at it that way. And I think we do that as coaches anyway. It's, tell me why do you believe that belief, and where did it come from? Now I know why. And then now I can understand why you're saying this. And I think you do NLP as well.
Yeah.
So then we go all the way back, all those sorts of things. And you can then be like, okay, but even for me, knowing all this, and it came from so many years of personal development, network marketing, and seminars, to then be like, okay, we're allowed to have different thoughts. We've had different things happen to us. If I can understand you, I can connect to you.
100%.
And we're going into communication, which is another epic topic and rabbit hole.
Yeah, 100%.
So what's the best advice? Or hang on, not that one. We just asked that one, but what is the advice you would give your 16-year-old self?
Just be you. Just trust that what you feel is the right thing at the right time is exactly that. Because there's a lot of things that I even I never enjoyed cheating. I never enjoyed all the things that I look back on with, not with regret, but distaste.
Yep.
I never knew, I knew deep down that I didn't like the actions, but I was doing it for a reason, to hurt someone else, or to get respect from the boys or the people that I was hanging around. I was doing it for a reason, but deep down I knew that I shouldn't have been doing these things. So if I had just trusted my gut and known that eventually one day I would have found the right people for me to be hanging around, then that would have been enough. But I just didn't want to be alone. I didn't want to be alone. So that would be it.
It's a very interesting one. And again, we've had a very similar story. And I think the things that I'd done in my teenage years, I did hold a lot of shame, regret, on it, but I like how you changed it to distaste. Like, I wish I didn't have to go through that stuff. I wish I didn't hurt the people I hurt and did the things that I did. But I also, now I look back and I go, well, that molded me into who I am now, and the beliefs and the values that I have now, especially towards relationships and women and friends and all that. But it's also like, if I told myself that as well, it's like, but I actually want you to go through that, because then now you'd be the person you are.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I think I'm very grateful for mum. Like, she never once, I got caught driving without a license when I was 14. I got caught smoking weed when I got caught doing all these things, and she disciplined me, but she never once told me what to do. And I think I'm so grateful that she gave me the ability to figure these things out for myself. And fortunately, I didn't destroy anyone's life or my own, but I learned a lot of really cool or life-changing lessons in the process.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Powerful.
I think definitely making mistakes is all a part of the process, I think, definitely.
Yeah.
But it does, once again, just like your job doesn't define you, your mistakes don't define you as well. It's just a learning curve.
And like you said, with knowing that, you can now make better choices
100%.
and not to make that choice again. What impact do you want to have on people, the community, and the world?
I think it's the vision currently of the Man That Can project, which is to empower men to build resilience, take ownership for their life, and confidently be their authentic self. I think if we have enough men being proud of who they are and the uniqueness of them, but also taking responsibility and having the resilience to carry on with things, we're going to see a lot of crazy, inspiring stuff happen. Like, I think we'll see suicide decrease, we'll see domestic violence decrease, we'll see mental illness decrease, mental health decrease. We'll see, beautiful families, we'll see so much amazing stuff. I truly believe that. And yeah, every time I get to be on a phone call, and not just even men, but people in general, I think that can flow onto is the goal. And it's definitely at this point in my life, it's what I'm committed to doing.
I love that. How can people be more fulfilled in their life?
I think do what makes them happy. And ultimately we know, I think deep down, if someone says, well, that's a fucking very cliche, broad answer, deep down the things that make you feel good. We all do. But once again, the moment that we take ownership and learn to say no to things that don't make us feel good, we have more time to do the things that do feel good. So I think if we can come from a place where, we are making progress, and whatever that looks like for you, we do have something to give to outside of ourselves, contribution to a bigger cause. If we do have great loving relationships and connection, and we have that place where we belong, I think if we can tick all of those boxes, we're going to be fulfilled, 100% going to be fulfilled.
Yeah, such good advice for people. Do what makes you happy. And you will always find joy and fulfillment in those things. Even if it doesn't make you money, it still makes you happy.
100%. I know money's obviously a big one for people, but I think when you realize when you get a bit of money, it's not the be all and end all. Like, And then they've said it's like $70,000, and this might be at US or Australian, is like, if you have that, anything over that doesn't dramatically change your happiness or your quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Awesome. What does it mean to be conscious? Even though you don't use the word, but
yeah. Can I share why I don't use the word conscious? Sure. I think the reason why there's a lot of people been approaching me going, you're such a conscious man. And I get that. I believe we're all conscious, because if we weren't, we'd be unconscious. I think, I think I don't want to segregate people again. Like, it's like, you're this or you're that. It's like, fuck, we're all at our own different stages, but we're all conscious. We all have some level of awareness. So to me, conscious is ultimately understanding that we're in control. Like, we have everything we need to create what we want from our life, and the fulfillment, the relationships, the finances, anything that we want, it's possible. So having that conscious belief that we're in control is what it means to me.
Yeah, awesome. And I think I did go down that road of, when I started the Conscious podcast, it was like, if you're conscious, you're my friend. If you're not conscious, you're not my friend. You can't be.
I did it as well, mate. That's why. Yeah. And I caught myself, and I was like, I think coming out of network marketing, I almost thought I was better than people because I was doing personal development.
Yeah.
And then obviously I had a good bit of a reflection and bit of a reflect. And I realized I wasn't. We're all just at different stages, and everyone is doing the best that they can with the information that they have, right? And doesn't make anyone better or worse.
Yeah, and it shows that we're all human. Like, we all feel emotions, and we all have things that we're working through. Just like me and you, we've still got shit that we're going through.
Yeah.
And this is like my program that we're like, I want to get to, and yes, I do coach people mentor people that are probably, a couple of steps or a year behind where I was a year ago, and that's why I feel so comfortable in coaching them. But it's also like, I still got shit. Like, it doesn't just finish and that's it. Like, you become conscious and you just meditate all day. It's like, no, things are always going to keep coming up, but I know that it's like, I'm willing to step into that. And like you said, be conscious. Consciousness is the, for you, you said it was the awareness and belief of having choice.
Yep.
It's not your identity.
No, I don't think we get to decide what it is, but I think if we attach ourselves to one single thing, like there's an end point eventually. Like, even for mums, right? Like their kids, when they generally turn 18, leave the household, and then they're like, what do I do now? And you're like, well, you're still an incredible human being that has a lot to give, but because you've identified as a mum for so long, you feel lost.
Mm-hmm. And so many people, whether that's after uni, whether it's after a sporting career, and this is where these conversations, I think, are so incredible for people to hear and to start asking those questions and to start being more in touch with who they are, because and do the things that are fun to them and that they enjoy, because that's where, you know, you're always going to be at least realigning and not going down to the depths of rock bottom,
100%.
emptiness, unfulfillment, all those types of things. So I'd love to wrap this up by saying thank you so much. I appreciate your time, your wisdom, your value. Like, hearing your story, I knew it was going to be so powerful. I just didn't realize it was going to be almost exactly the same as mine. But it makes me connect with you even deeper now. And that's the whole understand before being understood. Like, now I understand your story and why you do what you do. It's like, now, okay, now I can, well, not on the podcast, but afterwards we can catch up. We can do things. It's like, I already knew there was something, because you do incredible work for so many others. You run an incredible program and project, and it's impacting so many people. And I see that. But then also to come on here and to share so much with me, man, I'm just so grateful. And it's been so awesome to talk to you on this whole episode.
And I appreciate the opportunity to come on, and it's been great likewise to connect more. And I'm looking forward to connecting more after the podcast as well, because it's going to be cool. If, you know, I'm sure we can learn a lot from each other, having similar stories and backgrounds. But once again, keep doing what you're doing. I think we need more people, you know, hearing these podcasts and what you're up to in the future as well.
Likewise. Thank you so much. How can people find you, listen to your podcast, and get involved in any of your programs?
Yeah, so the easiest place is go to the website, theman-that-can-project.com. The podcast and everything's on there and all the programs. But if you follow on social media, it's at Lachlan Stuart. That's where I'm most active, or the Man That Can Project Instagram as well. So Instagram's where I'm mainly at.
Awesome. That's where the world is.
yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Have a great day, and we'll speak soon.
Thanks, brother.
Peace.